So I'm here with Meggie, and we are having coffee on this Friday morning, and we're here to talk about faith and being a mom in the world today and how we raise our children, and maybe a little bit about Advent.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can get to, but cheers to you, Meg.
Cheers.
Thanks for meeting me on
Thanks for
this
bringing
Friday morning.
Of course, a tasty coffee.
So,
yes.
I'm always excited to talk with other moms about their faith and how they got to it, how they kept it and keep it, and in this insane, busy, insane, upside down world,
Yes,
how do we keep our faith and then also give it to our children?
Journey, I wasn't raised a cradle Catholic, close. I think they call it a rocking horse Catholic a little bit later on. So my mom had left the faith, unfortunately, when she married my dad. And I grew up around my mom's family most, though, and they were Catholic. And I actually always thought, Grandma always has, a rosary, and that's a cool piece of jewelry. Like, I like those beads. Like, I wonder what that's all about. Or a medal, a Catholic medal. And so I wanted to be Catholic, and I just didn't quite understand why we weren't. And so slowly through my childhood, my mom did eventually come back to the faith, and I was baptized later on in life, had my first communion, confirmation. I grew up in Owatonna. It was a great little community to grow up. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, my parents went through a divorce, but through high school, I would go to Mass by myself. I'd go sit in the back pew as like little 15, 16-year-old Meggie, wondering about I was just, there was just always something about it. And my mom always told me, don't ever leave the church and get married in the church. And so I thought okay, this is the only rule I must live by.
Yeah, right.
So when I met my husband, the first question I asked him was, are you Catholic? Even though I wasn't perfectly practicing, I didn't know all the ins and outs of the faith, which is so rich and beautiful, and the church that Jesus established gives us just everything we need for heaven, and heaven here on earth, really. So and Jake said he was Lutheran, and I thought, well, it's close enough. So, but so I had for a short time kind of fallen away, and I really just didn't understand everything, or why the church would have certain rules or guidance.
Did you find that your faith changed in any way, either the way you felt it, the way you practiced it, or when you had your babies?
Yeah. So I started to think kind of like you, I want them to have this. I want them to live in the world, but not be of the world. I want them to know, to be able to see Christ first in all of the circumstances that they encounter. Yeah. And we just started going back to church. We took them when they were little. I even thought, laughing in my head one day at the Lord, we're in the far back at Holy Family. I think they call it the vestibule, way in the back. There's double doors. You can hardly see. What are they doing up there? Wow. And I was just, I'm on my knees with my, 1-year-old Theodore running around thinking, oh, this is perhaps my penance for all those years I didn't go to Mass, but I could have sat up close and listened quietly. Yeah. And so, but I thought, you know what, Lord, that's okay. You waited for me, and I'll wait for you too. And, so just all of those little mothering moments where you're humbled, and it's not in condemning way. It's a merciful way where you're oh, Lord, you are so beautiful in all of this. So going back to Mass, and then I learned too, through that, the church has given us, feast days, all throughout the year to really live liturgically. And that means bringing your domestic church up from just Christmas and Easter to every single day. Today's the feast of Saint Joan of Arc. Like,
There's
let's
a feast every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I try to keep up.
I know, me too. Yeah, and sometimes you can't. Like, I've learned too. Like, you don't. The church gives us many devotions because there's so many different hearts. Like, people are different. So a certain devotions or feasts or will speak to hearts differently. And so I've let go a little bit of like, I don't have to do everything. I just have to say, like today before Theodore left for his, they're going on a field trip. I just said, hey, let's say an angel of God prayer because you're getting on, we just want you to be protected today. Or, when we say bedtime prayers, we say the St. Michael prayer. Or we've had Father Peter over for dinner to bless our home, which is something I didn't grow up with. The priest was kind of like a lofty figure. We're like, I don't know, he's just some guy up there. Like, but now I'm like, talk to the kids about like how cool the priest is, like apostolic succession, and like he's from all the way in the line of Peter, and Jesus. Like, it's amazing. Like the richness of the faith is like, I get excited about it and I want to share it with my children. So adoration, like going and meeting, like really meeting Jesus on a friendship level, going to Joseph and Mary, like the Lord has given us such wonderful powerhouse saints to just turn to.
Yeah. I've made a point this year to be praying a lot in front of them and with them. For me, it's to make them accustomed to it,
right?
And so also it becomes something for them where when they're facing something or they're in something or they're stressing or whatever, that's their first, because that's what mom does.
Yes, yeah.
And
that's so smart.
This is just little things like, hey, Soph, let's just quick say, have a great hockey game.
Yes. Yeah.
Or, let's just ask God that you feel confident in net today.
Right, yeah.
Or, hey, Loretta, ambulance is going by, let's quick say a prayer.
Yes.
For whoever that is.
Yeah.
Just real, it doesn't have to be, and I think, for me, I think people are intimidated by faith, and I think they have been fed messages of what it's like, especially as your kids get older, how hard it is to keep coming or to keep your kid in faith because the kid doesn't want it.
Yeah. Right.
And you're gonna get there.
I know. Yes. Yeah. Some mornings we already are. We're like,
you're gonna have a 15-year-old, now 16-year-old who's like,
I can't.
Man. But I drag her because for me it's. No matter if she even thinks she's paying attention or if she's even whatever, she's surrounded.
Right. Exactly.
And it's there and it's going into her.
Yes.
And she doesn't even realize that she's surrounded by prayer and she's surrounded by love and she's surrounded by God and she's surrounded by people who would pray for her.
Yes, exactly.
And for me it's that habit is developed and the foundation's developed that when she does leave my home and enter this world that is not friendly to her, that her body knows and her soul knows this framework.
Yes, exactly.
And can go back to it. However it manifests itself for me, I just, it makes me sad though, and maybe we could talk about that, but just the struggle it is to be the mom of this and to be exhausted and to be tired and to be busy and then trying to get our kids and have to fight that fight.
Yes, right. Fight that fight too. Yeah. And I think what you touched on of like just having them around it. So, and we don't always know what the Lord is doing, like what word they're hearing or what will rest on their heart. Or come back to a memory, to memory years down the road when they're in a difficult situation or something. So I think, like I've heard people say, well, like, why do we even go? Like, it's just so hard. Or I heard one dad at Christmas Eve Mass one time, I heard him like whisper, like, this is why we come once a year or something. And I was like, oh, that's so like, I feel so sad for you because, like it's more than that. Like it's that, it's because it is a trial for us too. Like God isn't just changing our children, he's changing us through them. So like I think I have to remind myself of that too. Like he's asking me to struggle a little bit.
Right.
You know, he's asking me like, this is hard, and it is easier to just be like, well, don't go, or don't worry about it, or just let the culture raise them. But you know, I've lived that, and I know that it's, you know, it's not fruitful, it's not fulfilling, and everything that they told me it would be, it wasn't.
Yep.
Like a bunch of liars. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, and there will be some Sundays where I'm like, wow, my throat hurts from yelling at you to get your shoes on.
Exactly.
And like, and here I'm like, here we are, like, let's go to mass and be holy. Like, you know, it's just that reminder. Yes, exactly. It's just that reminder of like, I have no control over this, and like the Lord is going to move and do as he does, and the Holy Spirit is so good to us. I've had so many consolations in my life where I'm like, I should not have been given that grace, and I was.
Yeah, totally.
You can look back on those moments and they're just in praise and in thanksgiving that I didn't choose something else, or that someone had whispered something to me at, you know, in passing at when I was 16, you know, like, oh wow, I'm so glad I knew that, or I'm so glad I had a medal that I had, you know, I had a miraculous medal for years, didn't really know what it was or why, but you know, I had those little stepping stones. So I think like we can't give up on our children. Not that we are, or you, like anyone is. It's just it's hard, and sometimes we won't see the fruit of it for years. And and that's okay.
And that's hard in our culture here now.
Oh,
we want
instant gratification. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and we also don't like making our children upset anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? My mom ran a pretty tight ship, even for, you know, all of her falling away. Like, she told me the one thing, like the one good.
You had your rules.
I had my rules, the two, and they certainly helped. So, yeah, I think. And I don't have teenagers yet, but we definitely, we have our mornings that are just like, oh gosh, how did we get here? And I lost my temper again. And but again, I think it's the Lord just continually refining us, and to prepare us for heaven. Like we can't take any of that shame or worry with us. So it's that constant humility to say, okay, I'll try again. Yeah. You know, and
I'm not perfect.
I'm not perfect yet. And like you said, like I need your forgiveness, Lord, and I need your help. And I am like a terribly, like, I am really self-reliant. Like, if I don't fix this, nobody will. So I think that's something I've been working on, especially with the kids. Like, Lord, I need you to do this. Like, let me go to you first before I try to do this.
Right.
Hey, give me.
Found a series on Formed on Advent, and I'm gonna not remember her whole name, but Sister Miriam.
Oh, James Heidland.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who I have discovered and I am in love with.
She's
and
amazing.
Her stuff on healing and on trauma. Oh my gosh, I'm all
yes, me too.
She's
wonderful.
beautiful. But she does a beautiful Advent series,
yes.
And her first week 1 was on Mary, and she calls Mary Mama.
Yeah. Oh.
But she talks about our experiences of being a mom, or our experiences with our moms or without our moms,
yes.
Negative, positive, and how we reconcile that with Mary. And how she loves us, and how we're always seen and we're always loved, and it's the perfect mother love, right?
Yeah.
And and you sit, and the way she tries to help you reconcile your mom or your relationship with your mom, or with your children. Maybe there's times when you aren't perfect, and you didn't show up when you should have, or you didn't listen when you should have. And I know for me, I carry a lot of stuff, you know, with that, and just the forgiveness in it. And I never thought about Mary in Advent.
Yeah, like waiting for a child.
But it makes sense, right?
Yes, totally.
Advent's always about birth, but as a mom, when we're thinking of Advent, are there themes that come up during Advent for you that you can see the story in a different way than if you didn't have your own children?
Yeah, in a different way. Yeah, every year.
Right.
Every year, I always think it's like going to be like this perfect, you know, our Advent wreath and our prayers, and we do similar. So before we eat, we turn all the lights off and we light our candle, and we say, we like hold hands and we say this little prayer outline that I found by is her website is Be a Heart Design. Like she's a designer.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, it's really cool. So she had like a free PDF thing,
Yeah.
and I just printed it. I had it from last year. Yeah, and we sing O Come Emmanuel, and we say a reading out of the book of Isaiah. But our first night, the kids were fighting over the candle, and the wreath got knocked over, and so we were all like, fire! And I'm just like, oh gosh, I just need to remember that this is like, there's not a way this is supposed to look, and maybe like sometimes, oh good, thank you, that's great. Sometimes, like it doesn't have to look a certain way, like just do it, you know, like just do it together. And maybe that's like what Mary and Joseph experienced, like they were like headed out for it to go to the census.
They had no idea.
No idea what was going on. Just I think Bishop Barron. We don't need to open these right now. Bishop Barron describes them as like just some nobodies, like out wandering, you know, headed to Bethlehem.
She didn't have a birth plan, and she didn't have a...
Yeah, right. It was just like, okay.
She had no idea.
And, you know, the angel, you know, I've been told I'm going to bear this, you know, Son of God, okay. Like, all right, let's do this. So, yeah, I think that's been just kind of a gentle reminder to me. Like, Mary just continually said yes in the midst of, like, you know, not necessarily knowing how it was going to go.
And in really unimaginable circumstances.
Yes, yeah.
That we would just be terrified of.
Terrified, yes. Like, I think too of like, how did she, like, did she carry him close by her you know, her chest? Did she talked to a deacon. He's a deacon in St. Peter the Fisherman in Wisconsin.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and he is, I met him through this apostolate I'm a part of. Just 1 second. Okay, I'll let you sing it at the end, just 1 second. Through an apostolate, it's called Kratios for healthcare professionals that are Catholic. Just 1 minute, you're being rude. But he said, you know, sometimes my Advent is only just a couple hours sitting in the light of my Christmas tree. It's not anything that I thought it was going to go that the whole month, but it's just the stillness and the quiet as we wait for Jesus' birth. And he's like, sometimes it's just that little bit of time that I get. And so, I think I would just encourage people or parishioners to just do something, but not to put any expectation around it. Yeah, just let the Holy Spirit move as He beautifully does.
And laugh.
And just be reminded of like what it is to be the little child, like anticipating Christmas. Like, what was that wonder for you when you were little? And looking back over my life, like I mentioned, we always went to Christmas Eve Mass, and that is what has stood out in my mind. It's I can't remember Christmas gifts that I got, or I remember food and songs and things, but that was always that. Like we were dressed up, and we were, it was like, it was sparkly, and it was, it was just wonder. And so, to just relish in that again, and not to let it slip away so quickly after, the 25th. So, that's kind of our Advent, and I hope people can just joy in it.
Yeah. And I think just to wrap up it's kind of the message of being a mom in faith is the Advent message, right? Of staying awake, staying alert, being ready, and just finding God in the moments you can find Him. And usually it's in the worst moments. Right?
When I'm on my knees picking up spilled cereal.
And there's no such thing as perfection, and you're wanted even when your kids are noisy at Mass or running around at Mass. It's a joy.
Right,
And you're being watched as the mom. You're there watching everything we do and say. And who knows what's going to fall and hit and you have Christmas Eve Mass, and
right, exactly.
And that's our job. So, well, happy Advent.
Yes, happy Advent. Thank you so much for this. I learned so much about you.
Well,
praise God.
We'll have to do a coffee club.
Yes, I like it so much.
We'll have to talk more about women.
Women in the Bible.
Because
I love that. There's so much. There's